Good evening. This is John Warren, publisher of the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint newspaper, coming to you with our program From the Desk of the Editor. We're in GOD Radio 1 studios with Dr. Leonard Thompson III and Ms. Latanya West, our managing editor. I'd like to remind you always that the Voice and Viewpoint is San Diego's oldest and only African-American publication, serving 17 cities, 39 communities, and the unincorporated areas of San Diego County. You may download our app in the Google or Apple store and secure the paper online at no cost, or you may pick it up in a retail outlet like 7-Eleven's, single copy sales, over-the-counter, the community stores. And we give papers each week to our churches and to our seniors so that we reach people above and beyond what we normally put out. The motto of the Voice and Viewpoint is that a people without a voice cannot be heard. And so it is our goal to continue, as we have done for 65 years, being the voice of our community. If you wish to call in tonight, which is the equivalent to open mic, you may do so at 858-251-6111, or you may go to godradio1.com on the internet and reach us that way with your comments, questions, or however you feel. We are streaming live. You can see us on YouTube, on our website, on GOD Radio, and we are excited about the opportunity of being here. We got a lot of topics to talk about this evening. Many things are happening in our community, in the state, in the city, and in the country, and around the world. And so it's important that you know that you are a vital part of what takes place. And so try not to measure your wealth or your significance by the things that happen each day, rather than understanding that you are part of the larger whole that makes it all happen. With that in mind, I want to say good evening to our co-host, Dr. Thompson, and hear from our esteemed managing editor, Ms. Latanya West, who's always got some bits of information for us. Thank you about what is in this week's paper, which hits the newsstands tomorrow morning about 5 a.m., and you will have a jump start on what we do, since we do publish 52 weeks a year, every week. Dr. Thompson.
Well, it's good to be with you on this evening. Lots of things are going on in our community and around the nation. I am ready to get on with the topic, so I'm going to push it right to our managing editor, Ms. Latanya West.
Good evening. I was about to say good morning. Good evening. Well, we have a very important issue coming up, considering it's election season now. We have our voter's guide, so you'll have some information there about the propositions and measures that you can learn about and have some recommendations from Dr. Warren. We have our key dates. So on the cover of our issue for the next weeks, we will have the key dates that you need to know to register to vote, when the polls will open, useful information for you. So please check that out. We also have a very special announcement from Dr. Warren. You'll have to get the paper to see it, though. And we also have some information on local tenants and Blackstone, a major corporation here that is buying up a lot of property. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that article, because the biggest thing that I think is that corporations should, because we have such a rental shortage in California and pretty much throughout the country, that major corporations should be banned from buying individual houses or buying multiple pieces of property, thus making the market even harder and driving up the cost of it. So that's a great topic and a great read. I think that it's going to be very important for you to get to the newspaper this week and really jump in there to see what is happening and put your 2 cents in, because Dr. Warren, as you know it, people without a voice cannot be heard, but inactive people mean that there's nothing being done.
Well, this is very true. And let me just say on this whole issue, the editorial this week is locally oriented. It's called The Relationship Between Evictions and Homelessness. And I really lay out the case for why homelessness is going up, the impact of evictions, how evictions affect people's records even as they win the battle that's still on their record that they had won, the apartment association, I believe, the landlords, and many times they blacklist people who have an eviction on their record. The amount of money it takes to relocate, even moving up, has increased. It's no less than $5,000 in terms of a security deposit, first and last. And if you have any kind of issues on your credit, they do like the used car place. You can buy a car with bad credit, but your interest rate can be 18 or 20%, as opposed to somebody else paying 5 or 6. And so it's very important because we make the observation that many of our unsheltered people have good jobs. They're working. And people are forced to live in their cars. Cars break down, get impounded. Next thing you know, they're on the street with a tent. And the road to recovery is difficult. You can only stay but so long with relatives and friends.
And this in front of the Housing Commission this week, many people testified, especially seniors, that were talking about with the increases in rent and things of that nature. One man said, after I pay my rent, not utilities, just the rent, I only have $300 left for my Social Security check. What am I going to do? They're pushing us out, and ultimately we will be homeless.
Well, I like to remind people that 49% of the residents of San Diego County are renters. And so those 49% are responsible for much of the hardship that they have because so many don't vote. And the people who own the property, the people who run the system, the people who get elected, having been down that road, you know who doesn't vote. And you don't waste time with people who don't vote. They're not going to make a difference. They're not going to have an impact. If we ever reach the point that people understand that there's a relationship between their vote and their future and the quality of life and how they live, it's going to make a phenomenal difference. And so we keep trying to push that to help them understand it. And we have issues on the ballot this year that go to the heart of this. One of the issues is Proposition 33.
Okay,
Proposition.
I'm going to stop you.
Okay.
Because I want you to break this down. Because when I tell you a savvy registered voter, I'm confused. So can you unconfuse all of us? I'm saying class is open. I need you to give us a less, because we don't know the propaganda that's out there is keeping everybody confused. And we see a sister up there saying, don't do it. Then we see somebody else say, do it. We need to know the truth. Can you help us with that?
Well, the first thing I want to tell you, and LaTanya has helped and staff has helped put this together, the paper that will come out next week, or is it this week?
This week, yeah.
This week's paper
Tomorrow.
has, excuse me. Excuse me.
Excuse me.
It's such a hot topic.
I know we have to clear our voices.
To clear your throat.
There's some pepper
Let
in
me
my
clear
nose.
my throat. All
Look.
right.
There are 10 state propositions, and there are 3 measures on the ballot for the city of San Diego. But there are measures on the ballot for other cities within the community. And so we're dealing with all of them. The important thing right now is that Proposition 33 is the one that deals with the what they call the Hawkins amendment to a 1995 law affecting rent control on properties. There was an effort to change this law in 2015 and again in 2018 when we had Proposition 10 and a lot of money went into it. In essence, what happened was that when the foreclosure market kicked in, investors went in and bought up the homes. And the homes they bought were single-family dwellings. Single-family dwellings were never covered by any of the many rent control modified laws that exist all over the state. LA even has a modified rent control law. And so Proposition 33 this time is a proposition that would amend the Acosta-Hawkins Act of 1995 to make rent control provisions apply to single-family dwellings. And so obviously investors and moneyed interests are fighting this because if that happens, the value of the property that they now rent will diminish. The ability to move the property as they have done will diminish, okay? And so all of these things play into the overall picture. What I've tried to do this week is I've listed all 10 of the state propositions, and I've listed a recommended position on each one with the pros and the cons. For instance, one of the propositions would abolish servitude in California. And we would say, well, I didn't know we still have servitude because we have the 14th Amendment. Well, servitude allows to control people who are convicted of a crime. So that means that if you are in jail, you could be making license plates or whatever without getting paid. And whatever work you do without payment is considered servitude. And so this proposition, I believe, is number 4.
6.
Is it 6? Proposition 6 makes the effort to amend the California Constitution to bring the servitude language in line with the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. Because ironically, people say California was not a slave state, but California had some of the strictest fugitive slave laws in the country. And so people could come here and grab folks and take them back. We have another provision on there that deals with the whole concept of marriage.
Okay, so we're gonna ask the question.
Right.
So basically, if we vote yes, that means that servitude goes away and no longer free license plates and free services for inmates.
It means even more than that, because it means now that whatever jobs people are doing in prison, they have to be compensated. And so the state looks at it from the standpoint of what's the fiscal impact. And it's very possible that when many people work, they get credit toward their sentence. And so if the money goes away, the credit toward time served can be done, and it becomes a voluntary act that you participate to get the additional time. Well, that doesn't work for somebody doing a life sentence without the possibility of parole. So it's a question of how that will handle. What I encourage people to do is to read what we've done with each proposition so that you will not be doing a knee-jerk reaction to all of the junk mail you're going to get in the next 4 weeks, telling you what to vote for, looking slick, and all kinds of things, when that's really not the real deal that you should be concerned about. There is a proposition on there affecting minimum wage. I invite you to read it. I'm going to be doing even more detailed discussion of each of these propositions, but the purpose for this week is to put it in your hands, to whet your appetite so that you can look at it. And let me tell you that we have gone to the Office of the Legislative Analyst at the state, which is the one that publishes what you find in your voter's guide. And we have looked at them and we have talked to people. A matter of fact, 3 weeks ago, I moderated a panel in Sacramento at the Ethnic Media Conference that dealt with all of the propositions, and I had people on from at least 2 of the positions that are supporting them. And so we encourage you to read for yourself. I know some people are going to be trying to hold little meetings and they're going to talk about the props, but I want you to understand that you, the voter, represent what really counts. It's not any name on the ballot. It's not even the issue. It's you and whether or not you vote. And as always in the Voice and Viewpoint, we want you to cast informed votes when you vote. So we always provide a list and give you choices. We only make recommendations. We don't try to tell you how to vote. And many of you over the years have actually downloaded the voter's guide that's now online, taken it with you into the voting place and used it. In the city of San Diego, where we're located, and I'll be dealing with initiatives for National City, Lemon Grove, Chula Vista, El Cajon, the county that has, I'm going to be dealing with all of those things as I always do in substantive detail. But so what we do in the city of San Diego, we have 3 measures on the ballot. We have one concerning the Board of Education, and it will restructure the boundaries for the Board of Education election. So that's important. We have another.
Now, do we agree with the boundary changes?
Oh, I think we do agree with the boundary changes because what it does is it institutionalizes the board in a manner in which it didn't exist before.
Okay.
And that's important. See, historically, having been a school board member myself, in many jurisdictions around the country, people make sure that the boundaries for the school board are never the same as the boundaries for the city council or board of supervisors. And the reason they do that is because they don't want to create a breeding ground for future opposition against them. When I came along in Washington, D.C., just getting home rule, the Board of Education was first, so the city council used the same boundaries, if you will, and Congress was involved in it so that the board was an independent entity. We were both a city, county, and state board, where here we have 42 school districts in San Diego County under the San Diego County Board of Education. And they all are different, whether they are rural, like the Empire School Board, school districts, or whatever. And so a lot of us don't pay attention to those things because we don't live in rural areas. Many of us think that San Diego County is the city of San Diego. There's a whole universe out there, and it's exciting and it's different, and in many instances it's prehistoric. So these are things we're dealing with. The third item on the ballot, it was the education.
The measure?
The third measure is one measure deals with the Ethics Commission. And as a result of a draft from the city attorney, the Ethics Commission is established as a separate entity with power to hire and to take legal actions. And it's empowered with the members and the way it's selected so that it's no longer under the control of the mayor appointing people to the commission. The final piece is a sales tax increase.
So you just talked about Measure D. That's the Ethics Commission
The
measure.
Ethics Commission is Measure D. The Board of
me.
Education is Measure C.
C, yes.
And the financial element is Measure E.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And whether or not you want a sales tax increase. And I think you ought to look at that very closely because the last time National City did a sales tax increase, it backfired on them. This was about 15 years ago. And what happened was the people in National City started going to Chula Vista and San Diego to shop so they didn't have to pay the increased sales tax. And so these are things we want you to look at, not listen to folks telling you. You don't have to take our word. We're trying to make sure that you're an informed entity, and we're going to be pushing out more and more information, podcasts, news bites, our newsletter. And if you have questions, you can call, leave your questions with the office, and I'll get back to you to try and provide clarity. If you have a group that's looking for some clarity, depending on time and possibility, might be able to come and talk with you. This is something that I've done for the past 35, 40 years here in San Diego. And I've done it from the standpoint of the paper. I've done it as a political scientist. I've done it as a lawyer. I've done it as a former election official. And so I don't think you can come up with a question that I can't answer to encourage you to be as informed as possible.
And another way they can contact us is the news@sdvoice.info, the email. You can send an email,
Yes, we
letter
need
to the editor,
say that.
news@sdvoice.info.
Okay. So we're getting ready for the election. A very, very exciting time. Dr. Warren, is it the year of the woman? Let's talk about it. Latanya, is it the year of the woman? Are we going to see a clean sweep in California? Are we going to see a clean sweep across the nation? What does it look like as a African American woman? How does it feel that people are calling it the year of the woman?
Well, I think it's appropriate, and I called it the minute that Joe Biden stepped down and named Kamala as the nominee. She's going to win. I'm just naming it. I'm claiming it. It's going to happen. It's there. We do have to vote. It's not like it's a foregone conclusion. So we definitely need to obviously know the issues. We need to know what she stands for. It's like our job is not over, even if we are for her and for the Democratic Party. But yes, I do agree. It is the year of the woman. Years of the woman, honestly. But it's a very exciting time, and we're in it to win it. So we just need to do what we need to do to make it happen.
It's always been the year of the woman.
That's what I'm saying.
And I always appreciate when I think about that. I think about Marcus Garvey's words when he referred to us and he said the sleeping giant is awakening. Women represent the sleeping giant, but women have been fighting for the year going back to 1921 or whenever we got suffrage. We got the right to vote. Okay? And so we have people trying to keep women in their place. We saw it all during the 60s as the whole feminine movement kind of was misdirected in terms of things that happened. And I noticed with great interest today, there's a movement afoot to pass a bill to put a statue of Shirley Chisholm in Statuary Hall in the Capitol. And it just fascinates me as I hear all these people talking about her and the movie and everything. And it's kind of a funny place to be because of having had such a close personal relationship with her. It was more than just that picture hanging on my wall. And so it's to see that she had a vision and an idea, others have followed along that. But I want to see black people vote in particular, and I want black women to help black men make up their mind. And I can't embrace the idea that most black men are thinking about endorsing Donald Trump. I don't care how much they poll. It is so ludicrous and ridiculous that I have a hard time wrapping my head around it. Okay?
You and me both, Dr. Warren.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't, and I think that there are a lot of African American men that are looking at what they received in the past from the pandemic era, and they think that that's going to come back, but they're not paying attention. They're not informed, and so they think, okay, well, I got reparations for lack of better words when he was in office,
And when he got sent the checks.
exactly.
And you ain't getting no reparations.
Exactly.
But it's also about, have you listened to what the words are that are coming out of his mouth?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's like, really?
They're not listening. And see, I don't have any sympathy, since I'm not on the ballot, I can tell it like it is. I don't have any sympathy for men who think that way. I think they're mentally lazy and they're stupid, okay? Because your situation, however bad it is, in large part is a result of decisions that you made to put yourself there. Because everybody in your situation didn't come out that way. A lot of us worked against the same odds. We struggled and we sacrificed. And we must break this entitlement mentality that we're entitled. We're not entitled to anything other than what the Constitution guarantees and how we work in honesty. And if we can't come together to support a black woman in a crisis against an idiot, a bigot, a racist, a felon, and all the other things that he represents, then you damn well deserve whatever you get.
Well, when you have Republicans for Kamala Harris, you know there's something going on. When you have his former vice president,
Republican vice president.
Yeah, who will not endorse him, along with all the other leaders in the party, including, of all people, Dick Cheney's daughter, Liz Cheney. I mean, there's something going on. I mean, it just puts a spotlight on, okay, maybe we need to step back and assess the situation, because this is not normal times. It is not. And this is not a normal election. And so it goes beyond the basics, basically, is what I'm saying.
And I agree with you on that. But again, there are a lot of people out there that have a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of people out there that you can even say are lazy about how they go about things. There are a lot of people out there that I've said, America, including California, we love what we call celebrities or stars. And so basically one of the biggest things that J.D. Vance said, that is his name.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. J.D., and we're still trying to figure out what J.D. stands for because he keeps changing his name. But anyway, that being said, one of the biggest things is he said that, and admitted that we might make up stories to bring attention to our agenda, and we're going to keep on making up stories. And so That is the danger, that they will make up any story that will afford them to then be on a soapbox about what's right and what's wrong in making America
But
great.
that's something that they've been doing for quite some time now. And the Democrats aren't immune to that. They have their part to play because it's politics, and that's where you got to go. Okay, let's put it all down on the table.
Oh no,
and
I take exception to that
Well,
because I don't see any place where the Democrats have tried to manipulate people outside of the Constitution, the rule of law, and what democracy represents.
Yes, I agree. And I'm not saying that. So to
Right.
be clear, I'm just saying that there are people who feel that they're both bad because it's all politics and you can't trust politicians and the government and yada yada. That's what I'm speaking to. And I'm not saying that Kamala is perfect. I'm not saying the Democratic Party is perfect. But when you look at the two and the choices between and what's happening and what has happened in the past, and you listen to what's coming out of the man's mouth. But again, this is something that started back in 2015 when he first ran and claimed that Obama wasn't born in this country. And you had people, and luckily John McCain had some values and shot people down and set the record straight. This has happened for years. So it's in their best interest for people not to know. And we're also distracted with our smartphones and streaming services and games and whatever, and just trying to survive. It's hard to keep track of things. That's why the paper has its role in helping people to understand the issues so that their voices can be heard, so they have the option to raise their voices
Well,
with
that's why
information that they can trust.
we're the trusted messenger in terms of trying to get information. But I want to put something out that, within our own community, we have people fighting against the paper. We have people trying to undermine the paper, try to undermine your use of the paper, trying to convince you that they are more newsworthy than we are. And we're not against anyone doing anything that they would choose to do in a competitive marketplace. But when you get to the point that you are downright dishonest, that you lie, that you seek to mislead people so you can get grants and dollars to prop up the falsehood, then you're just as bad as Donald Trump, okay? Because you ultimately, I've seen this for over 3 decades in this community, and I've seen this situation where we we just go along with what's happening, and we're not thinking and we're not speaking up. But the interesting thing is there are people who read our paper who are thinking and speaking up. And one of the things all these social media hawks need to understand that the polling statistics show that the heaviest voting bloc with the greatest certainty is going to be from 60 on in terms of the age range. So, you still got that young group that's never voted and hope they're going to vote and hope the sun shine, the weather's warm, and, there's a map leading to the beach from the polling place. But a lot of folks that talk about Trump, they have no idea of their history. They don't know anything about civil rights. They don't know what our parents went through and what we went through to make things available for them. And I blame us in part for not teaching them when they were young, for giving them the cell phone and the TV and everything except accountability.
Well, one of the things about it, Dr. Warren, I always say that when you are the beacon, how they say it's easier to shoot at somebody that's on the hilltop versus if they're hunkered down in the mountains. What we have to do, and I think as a community, but also as a people, is to understand that there's always going to be new ideas, there's always going to be new elements, and we don't have to go after one in spite of. We can come alongside and work together because again, with there's so much news being out there, so many things that are being out there, there are so many spaces for us all to come together that we don't have to step on top of each other.
Absolutely.
And we also have to learn that instead of us saying, well, we could do it better, how about we improve what's already there and expand on it? The reality is we're so busy trying to destroy somebody else to put ourselves up, that we miss out that we're stronger together. You know, and I think moving forward from the Democratic Party, from us as a people, we got to get to the point that we are stronger together. If we are a voting block of strong people together means that financially we will be strong too. A big group of people that collectively work together. Oh, let me just call it out. My Latino brothers and sisters that can, during the pandemic, not one taco shop went out of business. You know what I'm saying? And they work together and they recycle their dollars. They support their causes. They're getting stronger and they're getting better. We have to do the same thing and support each other. It's just like, read the newspaper or not read the newspaper. Go by the newsstand and put your little 25, 50, is it 50 cents?
50 cents.
50
yeah.
cents and grab your paper and everything. I guarantee you, if it's in front of you, you're going to look at it and something's going to catch your attention and you're going to go through an education. Invest. Let's be a part.
Well, I want to
heard
make
that.
two observations based on the conversation that we're having. When we look at the Latino community, or the Asian community, or the other immigrant communities, the one thing that's strong among all those groups is that they have a vested interest in the future of each other collectively. The Latino community know they got relatives and loved ones across the border. They want to help get people over here. The ones who are over here, they got goals in terms of school and jobs and all those things. We had that attitude when we came through the civil rights movement. We got homogenized and pasteurized and set aside along the way because integration was the greatest harm to the whole black movement. And it's understandable because if you were denied something, then once you had an opportunity to embrace what you were denied, well, you thought that that was the way it was supposed to be because you saw other people with what you were trying to get. We have to evolve now beyond that point so that we come full circle, you see. You forget that the Birmingham boycott worked because the people were collectively involved. And if you don't understand what happened in Birmingham, then rent the movie to help and see how the people were treated, how they gave up the little bit of jobs they had, housekeeping, gardening, and whatever it is for over a year, determined that they were going to withhold their pennies at any cost. We have a hard time skipping lunch, okay? That's why all the fast food places are in our neighborhoods, because we don't understand deferred gratification. We equate it with slavery and hardship.
Now, I do want to say this because I don't know if anybody caught, how he said homogenized and what was the other word?
Pasteurized and set aside.
Yeah, y'all know that's milk, right? You know, that's that whole thing. So it's like saying, see, we done got all that and we done became we became lily white, not realizing that we're losing our culture behind that. That was deep. I followed you on that one.
Yeah, because when you do that to milk, it's safe now.
Yeah.
There's no germs and nothing in it, okay? And you do it to people, there's no history, no identification, nothing to stand up for.
Exactly.
And I'm not talking about almond milk either.
Exactly.
Okay?
There's no blood in the milk.
No.
And if you don't have no blood, then
Hey,
then
there you
just
go.
Pasteurize and homogenize.
Yes.
I like that.
Well, that's what Carter G. Woodson, he was polite. He called it the miseducation of the Negro.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to interject that, and one of our commenters actually mentioned this as well, that it's not like there are not young people who know what's going on and who are committed to the cause and the
That's true.
struggle, because we
don't
know
wanna
that
make it
they're there.
universal.
Yeah. So we
Right.
know that progress has been made, but we have so much further to go, unfortunately. But that's real.
Well, one of the things that I've been sharing this with a lot of young people is I deserve the right at my age now to be every now and then a little bit honorary and a little bit grouchy about certain things. And I said, when I grew up with other people that had done the work. You know what I'm saying? I remember walking into one of our prominent leaders' office, and he disagreed with a stance that I said and everything, and he promptly cussed me out and told me to get out. And I respectfully got out of his office And after I walked out of his office, closed the door, I came back in. I said, okay, you got that off your chest. Now can I talk to you about what I want to talk about? And he started laughing at me. He said, sit down. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times we get so caught up in the bark that we don't realize that they just challenge to see if we really want the information.
This is true.
If we really gonna be dedicated, or we just trying to get a quick fix and go on. We cannot be a generation of sound bites. You know what I'm saying? It sound good, but there's no substance behind it. We got a little bit of information, but we haven't sat up underneath anybody to really learn. And I use this, and Pastor Dr. Warren, you would get this. I remember preaching my first sermon and almost passing out. I was so nervous. And I remember my pastor, senior, well-seasoned pastor, he said, I enjoyed you tonight. And I looked at him like, are you out of your mind? And he said, but can I give you a little advice? And I said, yes, sir. He said, never preach an old man's message. Preach what you know and you experience, and you will always have something to preach because it will relate to your experience. That one little lesson on that ride back to college totally shaped my ministry
Yes.
from moving forward. And literally, I preached that night in front of 20 folks, but then 2 weeks later, I had to preach in front of 700 people. Now, if I passed out in front of 20 folks, I was petrified, but I remembered what he said, and the message went off beautifully because I preached exactly my experience connected to the word. That's the whole thing. There are certain things that young people have never experienced, and they don't really understand the Montgomery boycott. They can't even fathom getting a water hose turned on them, let alone a a fire hose turned on them. So when you sit with the elders and you have real conversations, you know, you then literally can feel and understand, and your empathy, your compassion, as well as your ability to literally speak from a position of understanding, thus you can work. And so I think that that's what we're going to continue to do with our young people. And I see a lot of young people that are slowing down enough to hear the story. I see a lot of young people saying, let us go and sit. You know what I'm saying? Again, I always say this, and I'll leave with this, Dr. Warren. I wanted to book an artist. And the person told me, no matter what you do, she's not going to do it. She's retired. But you want to meet with her? Let me tell you what you got to do. Now, me being a preacher, I'm like, okay, what I got to do? First of all, you got to go get some Crown Royale. And when you walk through the door, you got to say, hey, I came and I brought you your Crown Royale. And she going to take it. Now, she ain't going to open it because she done already got hers open. But she going to take it. She going to sit down. She going to talk to you for about 2-3 hours. And then she going to politely tell you no. She said if she told Oprah no, if she told Bill Cosby no, she going to tell you no. But it was the mere fact of being able to sit there and have that conversation, knowing the outcome, but just to be able to say, I was there.
Mm-hmm.
But see, that's something that our young people miss today, what you just said. Because the conversations that we have with people like that are life-changing. As I'm listening to you, I'm remembering my conversation like that with John Johnson, Malcolm X, Desmond Tutu. I'm just remembering that the conversations were brief, but the impact was great. And like when you preached that, was that a trial? Did you have to do a trial sermon? Was that
Yeah.
Okay. And as you were talking about that message, you know, it's so profound because I was ordained before I ever preached a sermon.
Mm-hmm.
But I preached my first sermon on December the 8th, year 2000, and the topic was Isaiah 61. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He is anointed. It was my birthday, believe it or not, when I preached that. I can't remember who was in the audience or how it was received, but I remember that I was led to use that scripture. But if we have spent time at the feet of other people, we have learned along the way, you see. Now, you and I, the perfect example of what we're talking about, and it came up today, was the people you saw us try to do that mentoring to in Black Men United.
Mm-hmm.
People who couldn't sit still, couldn't listen, and we made all kinds of overtures. And today, those individuals are in a dire strait, and now they're ready to listen. Okay, it always reminds me, Benjamin Franklin wrote a thing called Poor Richard's Almanac, and one of the expressions in Poor Richard's Almanac was this. It said, "Experience teaches a dear school, but a fool will learn in no other." And so we have to go through some of that to get with it.
And we all have
And this
had
is
that path.
this is what we are offering is we're having this conversation, open mic, and we're talking about these things. I know now that there are people listening because they come up to me and tell me that they're listening. They don't want to call or say anything. They just say, "Y'all keep talking. I'm getting so much every time you talk. I'm picking up on it, And so we have to keep talking because what's happened, and you talk about this, Latanya is got so much to offer in terms of building her hard drive. What happens is that so much of what we're sharing with people is a delayed reaction. They're not going to get it until a long time down the road. I'm still learning from my grandfather, from my father, from my great-grandma. I didn't know I was learning from these people when they were talking. All I remember is seeing their mouth move. I have no idea I'm taking in stuff, okay? And now today, with where we're living, it's all important. And back east, they used to have these circles that people came together, and we tried it here for a while, where people come and just have discussion groups. The Center for Peace and Justice at USD was built for that purpose by Joan Kroc, to have a place for people to discuss and share ideas. But most of us are so busy trying to earn a living and fighting off being oppressed and kicked and shot and everything that we don't get a chance to sit and just, let me think about what's next. What's next is, do I eat tomorrow?
Well, one of the things, there was a statement here. What if you are sitting under somebody, but you can't communicate with them? I think that maybe got pulled out. I'm not seeing it. But here's the thing that I always tell young people. The one thing that I learned as a young person is that when you're in the presence of leaders and great people, the main thing that your job to do is sit there and listen. And you will get more from just listening than participating in the conversation. But here's the thing. When you're sitting there listening intently, and then they say, "So what's your thoughts?" And they do that just to see if you are even listening.
Yeah.
Sometimes, as a young person, there was a time that I wanted to be in the conversation and I wanted to be there. And then my uncle said, "When you go into a room, you will learn more by being quiet,
Right.
than if you're always talking." And I sat back and I said, "Wow." And I remember going into a room and Calvary was like the big church back then.
the place.
And when they would have their anniversary, to go into a room, the what I call the conference
Inter
room,
sanctum
yeah,
sanctorum.
and with all these power brokers of pastors and influential leaders and everything, and you sitting there and you're like 14 years old and you're hearing these conversations, you're like, whoa, and everything. But as long as you were quiet, you got all this information. So that's why I always tell people, read The Spook That Sat by the Door.
Oh, yes.
Read Carter G. Woodson, The Miseducation
Yes.
of the Negro. Read the ISIS papers.
Yes.
Read certain things. It will open your mind. Like I said, and Dr. Warren, we might have to do a whole topic on it. Read the Willie Lynch papers.
Oh,
and
yes.
ask yourself the question, is it still in effect today?
Of course it is.
And how's it going?
Yes, it's still, Willie Lynch is still in effect.
Yeah.
And the only difference is that we're doing it on automatic pilot without having read the script.
I just wanted to interject that you were fortunate to have that uncle to impart that wisdom to you. And unfortunately, we have young people who don't have that support or that, close relative. So I just say that to say we can't give up on our young people, because yes, there's some knuckleheads out there. I can say that, having been a teacher, working in the grassroots, I can say that there are knuckleheads. We have them. But they are hungry for that glimmer of recognition from us, the elders, into their eyes, letting them know that we believe in them, You know, it might take a while for the circuitry, but we can't give up on our young people. We have to let them know that they are loved and cared for.
And by all means, I agree with you 100%. And, as we get older, the young people get older too. The biggest thing I always tell people is, when you really want something, you're willing to go through some things. And I always tell people, if I don't get my answer from you today, I'll wait and get it from you tomorrow, and I might get my answer from somebody else. But my whole thing is not to be so angry with this block that came up to me that I miss out on the other people that are there to help me. Everybody's not, and this is why I tell people, stop asking people to be your mentor.
Oh, yes, please.
You know what I'm saying? Because everybody wants a mentor, but you have to ask yourself, you can't put yourself under everybody. Ask somebody, can you be a person, an elder that I can come and talk to? Because not everybody is meant to be a mentor. But everybody, all the elders, can either tell you what to do or what not to do based on their experience. And so when you hit a roadblock, don't let that one roadblock stop you. My message that I preached, the second message, was entitled, Don't Be a Victim of a Stumbling Block. So many of us as young people and older people get caught up and stumble over one thing. We fall down and we never get up because our feelings are hurt or somebody mistreated us or whatever. But it is about the getting up. It ain't about the fall. You know what I'm saying? Because we're all going to fall. But it's about how many times will you get up? How many times will you get up before they count to 10 and count you out?
And that's why knowing our history is so important, because there's many examples of that very thing, of getting up, of going around the obstacle. I mean, that's our whole history here in the United States. I mean, we're amazing. I mean, think about it.
And watch Glory when Denzel Washington was getting whooped, and he just took
yes,
it down. One
that's
tear
right.
rolled down, and we all got messed up. That was determination. Look,
Right.
I might try, but I'm gonna stand strong.
Right, and that's our middle name. So that's why it's important for young people to know
Well, that's why
our history.
we have the spiritual, the song, and this all the song says is, I fall down, but I get up.
Yeah, we fall down, but we get up.
We get up. We fall down, but we get up, and we just keep on getting up. We fall down, we keep getting up. Okay, and so sometimes we have to move beyond the pity party to be able to relate, because a lot of us are programmed to waddle in our own problems as opposed to walking in spite of our problems. And everything that we have was done in spite of what was being done to us.
I'm laughing, Dr. Warren, because I'm thinking about, the sensitivity of us as a people. I remember when I first got introduced to heat. Baby, don't touch that stove because it's hot and it will hurt. And that was my lesson. Don't touch the stove. It's hot. It will hurt.
Which meant you had to touch it.
We had to touch it. Now some people's family was like that. That stove is hot. See, check it out. And they put, and you pull back. Then you knew. So it's all about how everybody's not going to give you the same lesson and going to come the same way. But if you get the message, you know what I'm saying. If somebody be like, "Watch out, there's a car coming," but there might be another person like, "Heifer, there's a car coming." But, watch yourself. A lot of people get caught up in how it's said versus what was said.
But I think that's also generational too, because the generation that came behind us and then behind them, they have this whole everybody's in their feelings kind of thing, and it's good to know your feelings. That is a good thing.
The
But
tree generation.
yeah, but we got to toughen it up a little bit, because we didn't have the luxury of just being caught up in our feelings.
We'll say that one more time. We didn't what?
We didn't have the luxury.
And that's the thing that we as parents have to now come back in and tighten up our kids, because we've given them so much luxury to be in their feelings, to feel like they're entitled and everything else. That's not their fault. That's our fault. Because
Well, the society promotes
Yeah,
it.
that's what
You look at a program and a kid on television is telling a parent, "Get out of my room," or I didn't tell you have permission. I have to catch myself so I don't break my TV. Because what? You don't have no room. You know, you a guest here. You know, who you talking to?
He like Ricky Smiley. Oh, and he went through and he pulled his drill out and everything, took doors off of every room. He
Yeah.
said, "Don't nobody have any privacy in this room. This is my house." But a lot of people say, "Oh, that's just violating their privacy."
They ain't got no privacy.
It's so important that we sow into our young people in love. The one thing that
Yes.
we did know, even when we were being chastised and everything else, my mother used to make me so mad because I would get a whooping, and then it was like after it, it's like, come get a hug and kiss. And you know, the mama didn't want to do that, but she had to learn. And you sit up there, but she was whooping me this a minute ago.
Oh gosh.
But she still, you know, she was
Or
still,
crying while she's
oh.
doing it.
But you know,
Has that happened
we-
to you?
Mm-hmm.
Crying
we
while
learned
she's
different
doing
ways from the whooping. I remember
Whew.
at 13, the last time my mother tried to whoop me, she got a belt. I don't even remember what I did. And she was just wailing poor little thing with all her energy. And she was just hitting me. And I was just looking at her like, are you through yet? You know? And it didn't bother me. But I'm going to tell you what got me. When she got out of steam, she dropped the belt and she just stood there and started crying. From that day, as long as my mother lived, she never had to raise a hand against me again. She never had to have an argument with me because her standing there crying did more to me than 10,000 lashes, okay? And so, but that's the respect that we were raised with. And when I see people that don't respect their parents, okay, who just mistreat them, we can't put it all on the government and on the school budget and all of that other stuff. We have responsibility in terms of what happens.
And let me say this, and I'm going to go with you, LaTanya, and say this, Ms. West, is that there are some amazing young people out there that are doing some amazing things, that have fought through against the odds and everything. I think of the young girl by the name of Blessing Williams.
Yes.
That is at Howard
Yeah.
University now.
Is that where
And-
she is?
Yeah, she's at Howard.
Lavender? Blessing.
Blessing Lavender.
Yeah.
Williams, I believe it is. And they sent out pictures of her in her room and everything else that nature. And my prayer for her is not that she is, because I already know she's going to be big time successful. My prayer is that I'm hoping that she'll be able to come back and some of that intelligence and that power will be able to be here. Because many times when our young people leave, everybody wants them. And she was like a shining star. And I think there's so many shining stars that are out there. And now it's like we're giving them opportunities to do that. But here's the secret. Every time Blessing would do something, she respected it wherever it came from. This is the thing that we're trying to tell this new generation. If we give you the opportunity, don't take it as, okay, I did it now, I don't need you anymore. Take it as we are literally opening the door for you to have an easy walkthrough, but it comes with responsibility. You know, it's not just, okay, I did it, I'm going on. What is the responsibilities you have for the community? Because as we as the older generation is leaving, we are literally trying to leave our community better off. We're giving young people the tools. Now it's up to them to say, will we use the tools? Because here's the thing, creating new tools to do the same work is not always smart or useful. Where you can take the tools that are already there, improve on the tools and make it better, you're further ahead.
Well,
I
I am
agree.
just so
Concur.
excited for you too. I know that after listening to you, the world is going to be in good hands. And I don't even have to worry about it. I do.
Go Calvin.
I do want to remind people that we have a number of issues in front of us. This week we had a hearing on the whole matter of rents in San Diego. The Proposition 33 I mentioned would bring rent control, and so there are people advocating that folks vote for it, while a lot of money is being spent, they tell you not to in terms of it. We're still looking for some relief. You know, last week we were addressing Mr. Nicholas Hoskins' situation, demanding that City Hall do something, that no response. Nothing has been done so far. And we're going to stay on that. We're going to stay on risk management about the level of what's taking place. Last week we had a very important meeting with Deputy Chief Administrative Officer Andrew Strong. One of the things that came out of that meeting was my concern about the relationship with the Sheriff's Department. I'm happy to report that this afternoon I had a long personal conversation with the sheriff. She called me and I talked to her about our community and our concerns, and not just our community, but the importance of her office reaching out to all the communities and not being in a silo, only coming out when something is a problem. So she seemed to have been interested. And these are things that we try to do. We're still working with the district attorney's office. We got issues going on. You and I know, and you said it too, Dr. Thompson, that now they're talking about the former superintendent, but a lot of the stuff coming out is showing that the interim superintendent is just as involved in a lot of stuff that happened, and they're trying to stick her up there like she Joan of Arc, and that dog ain't gonna hunt either.
Well,
Okay.
Dr. Warren, I just got to say this. I know we're going to discuss it, but she said she called for a forensic audit. I am personally, and I think we collectively need to call for a forensic audit all the way back to Cindy Martin. If you start there and move forward, you will get all the bodies, and you will see that the superintendent that this was fired was always designed to be the fall guy.
Always.
And so now they're going to try to pin everything on him, but I'm saying go all the way back and clean all the house. And
And
that
see-
will also include Fabi.
And you got to remember, see, Cindy Martin is trying to find a home. You know, like that song, the Bo Weevil, looking for a home, because she applied for the superintendent at the County Board of Education. People up there had enough sense not to take her.
Well, now she's buddying up with Kamala Harris's husband.
That ain't gonna work.
I hadn't
First
heard
of all,
that.
Kamala ain't gonna let her get but so close to her husband. so that's gonna be. And Kamala is smart enough to know that Sydney brings so much baggage. The only reason Biden didn't pull her nomination, it would have been an embarrassment to do so. And they were remembering what happened with Clinton when he pulled Lonnie Lanier, and so they let it go through. But I understand from inside sources that her life in Washington has been miserable, that she has been non-productive, she has no respect, she has a title, and I kind of laughed in a sense when I heard it, because I know of other people over the decades that went to Washington, they got
Tom
positions.
Payson.
Huh?
Tom Payson.
Well, Tom Payson is kind of an interesting variation.
But he went
Okay.
there.
Oh,
and
he
then
went
Then he
there.
got Boston.
Yeah, he went to Boston from there, and the guy that was the general counsel, Tom Shannon, he went to Washington as a result of George Walker Smith opening the door. He became president of the association and did very well, retired in a nice way. But, you know, Tom Payson, along with Tom Page, okay, from SDG&E, those Toms were something else, boy.
Yeah.
They were on a roll, and San Diego felt they couldn't do any harm, you know. And so we look at all of these things, and we see it's cyclical. We done come back around. We got different faces, but we got the same issues. And you and I were in the room in meetings when Cindy Martin was superintendent, where the contrast between the way she handled us and the way Chula Vista National City was being handled, with the same amount of monies where they had surplus and she had deficits.
Yeah.
So it's not over. And I think we need to editorially push for the audit to go back to the beginning. And I think we need to tailor our sympathy movement in terms of the former superintendent. And like Dragnet, we just need to deal with the facts right now.
Exactly.
We don't need to have an emotional reaction to what's going on.
Well, Dr. Warren, believe it or not, we are far as time. You know what I'm finding out?
What?
You know when Miss West come on, time just flies by. We're going to have to work with that, huh?
It's
knew
all
you
in
were
your
gonna
mind.
Well, this is from the That's the editor with Dr. John Warren, yours truly, and Miss LaTanya West, managing editor of the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint. We pray that you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. God say the same. We'll see you back here same time next week. Y'all
All
be blessed.
right.